On this episode of the Circle of Fists, we are doing the Rocktron ValveSonic Plexi. Rocktron has partnered with LA Custom to produce the ValveSonic series of all-tube guitar preamps with unprecedented sonic versatility. The ValveSonic Plexi captures the vintage tones of the iconic British Plexi amplifiers, from the stacked amps and the arena sound of rock to the sound heard during the Sunset Strip era of rock and beyond. Features of the ValveSonic Plexi include a one-unit rack-mount guitar preamplifier, all-analog tube-driven design, designed by Rocktron and LA Custom Guitars. Injects decades of moderate gain British tones into your guitar setup. Small footprint, great for touring guitarists. Pair with the Rocktron mainline or your favorite power amp. Intuitive gain, EQ, and master level controls. 6 toggles unlock numerous adventures for tonal inspiration. Boost switch adds an extra dash of gain. Afterburner switch emulates power tube distortion. The Rocktron ValveSonic Plexi rack-mounted tube guitar preamp retails for $799. All right, so today we did the ValveSonic from Rocktron, and it's a preamp that's kind of modeled after a bunch of different Plexi kind of Marshall tone ideas. Craziness, yeah. So, yeah, Rocktron was cool enough to lend us this to be able to try out, so thank you for that, appreciate it. And Dave is going to be our resident expert on the.
Why am I nominated?
You're holding the manual. That's
what
what
manual?
That's all you're good at. That's why.
So
all right.
Manual's here.
Yeah, manual's here. We don't know anything. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
I have a really short answer for this one. So, from what I heard, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Especially now knowing the price, it's even cooler.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that later, but yeah, I really dug like the kind of tones you were able to get, how you were able to make it really nasty sounding. Then you can dial it back to have it really good clean. So it was kind of cool to get that.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, that's for sure. Let's go next.
I'll go next.
Right. Okay.
So I actually have a 100-watt Plexi at home. So
That's badass.
Yes, it is.
So I was really excited to compare it because it's kind of have the real thing, and so it kind of does everything I want the real one to do, but more manageable. Of course, it's just being a preamp. I can separating that with the power amp makes it so where I can turn that down as low as I need to.
Right.
Turn the hell out of that thing on. There's your stadium rock sound.
Right.
And then but it cleans up. It reacted like a Plexi or a JCM or whatever you're going after. And then the switching options with the bright switch is cool. That's kind of reminds me of the Friedman amps that have bright switches on them. Mm-hmm. And they're not like the Fender bright switches that actually kind of sizzle everything on top. I felt like I could still run my pedals through the bright switch on this and it wouldn't push everything up.
Gotcha.
And that's the thing I did with my Plexi was cut the bright caps on the bright channel because it was on 0 and then 100. And there's nothing. So when you clip the bright caps, the volume onset's a lot smoother and your pedals are perfect through it. And so it just kind of brings everything down to a median level between the two channels. And that I got that out of this. I got everything that you ever hear, Marshall, AC/DC, and Hendrix, and Clapton, Page, all those guys, like you can get all that in here. And I kind of just ran on one setting and kept the boost on for the gain, cranked it and played whatever I played, and I was just like, I feel like I'm at home with my Marshall. But what you get with this is the usability of like I don't have to crank it to 7 or 8, and I'm pushing 120 dB, pushing 90 dB, and my hearing is So studio-wise, I would love to put like a cab sim on my computer and run it recording live. It'd be cool to bring a little guy and a little power amp like we have back here, and I'd feel completely 100% comfortable running a whole show, a tour, whatever I'm doing. It feels sturdy. The switches felt great. Everything I was kind of blown away. I felt like it was like a Marshall product. Like, hey, if you want the Plexi kind of in a smaller box, there you go. Cool. And so props to Rocktron and LA Custom for that. I floored it, honestly. It's awesome.
Kris?
I think it's a real quality piece. I mean, Rob said a lot of the things that I totally agree with. First of all, it gives you that, what I call the stadium rock sound. Yeah. It has that, or a lot, I'll call it even sort of that British rock sound. That was there. It was there in a couple different levels. The switching, to me, I would want to spend more time with it because when I hit 2 of the switches, it almost cut everything completely out. Like it dropped it down. It must have dropped down, I don't know, the power level or something else. But when I started, Billy had showed me some of the key controls on it, and I got right into the gain sections, which I liked, and I thought that they were really good. And I also thought the gain was very manageable. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, if you have said like, I have a Mesa amp which is 0 to 100, there is no in between. But on this, you can definitely dial it up, and it's really what I saw just on 5 minutes working with it was dialing up the master and the volume, the drive and the master. To me, that's the key. Plus, there's one really significant overdrive or bright switch, whatever term they use on it, that makes a world of difference. And it's super manageable. Would I take it to a gig? Probably not, but I can immediately think of an application for me in the studio. Mm-hmm. I can think of a couple, different songs that the band has done or that we're going to do in the future where this piece of equipment would be absolutely perfect for that tone, because I can tell in playing it for 5 minutes that the tone I'm looking for is in there. They have a good reputation, quality stuff. So I think they kind of hit it out of the park on this piece.
Everyone's saying everything that I could say, but I really love the dynamics of it, because me and Billy were nerding out before the table segment on like, you can really get it to go, like earlier I was saying, what part of the cosmos do you want it to go to, because it was very wide. I really enjoyed kind of getting, I think it's the boost switch, right, that changes it fully.
Yeah.
It's like more than one. And I loved how like drastically it went to a whole nother different thing to figure out, which was fun. And like what Rob said, it still had that plexi body and thing that you want with it, so I was really excited about it. But really dynamic. I liked it.
Hold on a second.
Okay, first off, this is a quality piece of gear. I own a bunch of different Rocktron stuff, and I haven't gotten a bad working piece yet. And a lot of my stuff now is 30, 40 years old and still holds up. I'll take one thing that Kris said and actually go even further. I would not play this live. I just wouldn't. One thing I like about playing live is to be kind of in control of what I'm doing. And I feel there's so many options on here. And it would always have me walking back and, oh, now I'm going to hit this switch and change this a little bit. Oh, that's right. There's too much to do on this. And then another thing that I noticed on the translation from here, and we used my cab for this, for the demo, and that's one piece of gear that I know inside and out and backwards. The whatever EQ point they're using for the bottom end was not translating to my cab like a bottom end switch should. Okay. So the low or bass or whatever is the bass on here, I was just all the way as much as I could, and I know my speakers, when you get that much bottom end, you feel them kind of lugging down, and that's one thing I love about vintage gear, is one of the way they got tones on the old amps was you just had to crank them on 10, and then you just feel the speakers lugging, and it gave you this sense of energy and power that I did not get out of this, and I would miss that on stage.
Gotcha.
But if you do any recording, you have to have this piece. There are so many tones. And I've been a recording engineer and a record producer for probably 15 years, 20 years now. And with a body of work that's ridiculous, and to be able, I'm not a big plug-in guy. I have, vintage mics, I have high quality mics, different ribbon, condensers, where okay, I want to get a great tone. I'm not going to get that on a plugin. I haven't yet. And I got some great high-end expensive studio plugins. You're like, it just doesn't sound like wind moving. And so I would use this. This would be my 90% go-to in a studio. I might even pick one up exclusively for that. I'd still run it through a really good power amp with like EL84s or some 6L6s or a nice good power amp, into a cabinet, mic it up, because I have a vintage console, I know how to get the tones out, but this gives me so many options on the front end. It gives me that vintage plexi, it gives me that kind of 90s kind of mid-rangey, we want to get crunchy as opposed to just overdriven tube, and I could hear all that in here, and it was huge, and I'm like, all the things are going off. And when you're tracking from a cabinet through a microphone phone into a board, you're not trying to pull the low frequencies that I did not get from this.
Cool. Right.
So studio application, if you are doing legit studio recording and you want a piece that you're going to mic up, you have to have one of these. I wouldn't take that on stage with you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right, let me just respond to that. So the whole low end thing, is it's a double-edged sword, because like Billy says, you want the low end because that's kind of where the balls come from on the bottom of the guitar. But on the other hand, if your low end is overloaded, everything's going to sound muddy, and you're not going to sound shit. You're not going to hear shit, because when the low end is so overdriven, and it just swallows the rest of your guitar tone, and you're always trying to cut through your own amp.
Yeah.
So, which you can't do. What I did like about this was, even when it was overdriven and crunchy and stuff like that, I thought it was clear. So I thought that the tone, as much as distorted or overdriven as you got it, it was still relatively clear. And what I absolutely noticed that I liked the most about was it didn't sizzle at the top. It wasn't piercing. It wasn't, it wasn't making my ears hurt. I could get, like I said, that, you said it perfectly, that stadium rock distortion sound without it piercing me in the higher decibels.
Oh, go ahead.
So I was just saying, it's always that balance. You want the low end to really drive it, but you don't want to be muddy. You want highs, but you don't want it to sizzle so much at the top that it becomes painful. And I thought it did it well.
Yeah, and that was one thing I did notice about the 5-position brightness. Like by 2, I was like, that's pretty bright. By 3, I'm like, Jesus, where are we going with
I had
this?
that same issue. Yeah.
You could open up, and it was weird, and I can't really explain it other than the highest setting might as well have been called ice pick, but it wasn't annoying. And that's where Kris said, he's like, it wasn't piercing. It was borderline piercing, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Right. It had like a quality to it that you're like, wow, I have so much headroom, but at no point do I just want to kick this thing because it's yucky.
It's too much.
And so it was like, wow, I never thought I could get more brighter, and I'm like, I'm a 3, really?
Chopin page tone.
Yeah. I kind of got
Emerald
that
eyes, whatever.
So I'm a big Page fan. I've been playing a lot of Zeppelin already in the few demos that I've done. So I have the Les Paul and then a Marshall anything. I'm like, I wonder how I can coax anything with my heroes out of that. And I definitely got that in spades, and I was kind of shocked too, because the way the EQ worked is completely not like a Plexi at all. People that know Plexis, your presence knob almost acts as a gain knob in a way. Your bass knob doesn't do a damn thing usually.
Well, then that's accurate.
The middle knob goes from kind of MIDI to like honk. And we're talking like honk. Like it does that very well. And the treble knob is another kind of it's. If the EQs on them are so weird, you're just like, you turn everything, you're like, I don't hear anything, but then you'll feel it. With this thing, I was like, mids, okay, there's your mids, your bass, and so that was cool to feel too, that they kind of maybe improved on the sweep of the EQ, where it was actually like, okay, you want more treble, you'll actually get more treble, or mids, and I can get, on Les Pauls, you put it in the middle position, crank everything on 10, and you get that honky, that Page thing he did, and it still did that, but it stayed clear. The low end didn't come up and go, oh yeah, here's all your low end back because you're on the neck pickup. It stayed very even across the EQ band. So no matter what I was doing, because I don't know if you have this problem, Billy, but when you flip to your neck, things get boomy. When you flip it back to your bridge, it's spiky. That happens to me
not
sometimes.
On my amp.
No, okay.
But I know exactly, because I played on certain rigs where you flip up, and all of a sudden it's just like overpowering, and you're like, Jesus.
And then your bridge is really spiky, and you're just like, but this stayed perfectly even. It didn't matter what position I was on, it stayed right there. And it was just like, that's the Marshall sound. That's, when I want that Thin Lizzy grind, that's the sound. I can get all of that.
Yeah, Parisian walkways, you totally get some Parisian,
Anything, all your heroes that you saw with Marshall stacks and whatever the hell they were playing, that's what that is.
Yeah, I was so blown away.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think, studio-wise, and the other thing is obviously you guys only get like 5 minutes with a piece of gear. So there's a ton of stuff out of this thing. This thing gives you so much stuff to play with. Each one of you guys probably could have spent an hour and still maybe just scratch the surface of getting tone and stuff like that. But the other thing that's kind of cool, and you guys can't see it, but on the back it has line level outputs, an instrument output, and then it also has, I guess you flipped over. It also has an instrument input. There you go. Break all the switches off. Good job, But But and it's also upside down now too, just so you know, to them. That's
So they can still see the switches.
Okay. So anyway, but it's cool because I mean, if you did have it in a rack rig or on like in a rack for in a studio or something like that, having the input in the back is also kind of nice. But having line level as well as instrument outputs to run to something else is kind of cool. You can stack it and things like that. But it has so much stuff. I totally see this in the studio. And the other thing too nowadays with being such like everybody using this small little DAW on a laptop. I mean, you could run this and then like you said, run it like an amp sim in your laptop. And you could be getting some really killer tones out of this for a home studio rig that you're just running one piece of gear on. The other thing is it retails or actually is going right now like from Sweetwater for $7.99, so $800.
Damn.
I mean that's a pretty insane price for that. I mean, for all of what you get.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I could put one in my studio with a good tube power amp.
Right.
And I could basically knock out about $7,000 worth of vintage amps.
Right.
here.
Yeah, it's damn impressive. I mean, it really is for what you're getting out of it for that price. I mean, yeah, I could see it going for double. And I mean, I probably wouldn't buy it, but I'm just, but
I wouldn't be pissed about it.
I wouldn't, yeah, but I mean, I can understand it. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I totally get that. So yeah, it's great. So great job, Rocktron.
Yeah, killed it.
Absolutely.
Good.
You actually get a round of applause for that.
Yeah. Everybody good? Anything else we want to talk about? We good?
Oh yeah, that's.
All right, killer. That's the ValveSonic. Boom.